Welcome back, Voyagers, to Vibes from the Void, the podcast where we talk about all things mythology, folklore, occult, and paranormal. I'd like to welcome my good friend and fellow student of the strange, Miss Molly Pop.
Howdy.
Who has decided to graciously lend me her talents and knowledge today. You can catch her show Quality Control Music on KUHS 102.5 Hot Springs.
It is 10 p.m. to midnight every Wednesday night. You can also check it on our live stream, which is on kuhsradio.org.
And you can stream that during the regular show hours, whatever you're... So that's, 10 to 12 Central Standard Time?
Correct.
Cool. Well, this is actually our second attempt to get this episode, get this tracked. We had some technical issues with the first take, but I think we're going to be good today.
I'm a quiet person, my bad.
Well, I mean, it helps if your sound engineer knows what he's doing.
Touché.
But I do want to start today with the regular disclaimer. We are not scholars. We do not have degrees or certifications in anything. We're just enthusiasts when it comes to strange crap.
Yeah, I'm a spooky bitch on occasion.
If on occasion you mean always.
Shh, these people don't know me.
Okay, so that disclaimer, of course, we're not experts. If I'm wrong, feel free to shoot me an email at officialvftv@gmail.com. You can also shoot me a message through my Facebook page for Vibes from the Void. That's Vibes, Vibez from the Void. You can find that on Facebook. Also, we are streaming on YouTube and Podbean right now. We're in the process of getting the podcast available on Spotify and iTunes as well. So another just short disclaimer. Today's episode, we are going to feature spoilers for a couple of different things, namely The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the original Netflix series, Stranger Things, which is also a Netflix original series, and then also I am going to have some spoilers for the Magnus Archives, which is a horror fiction podcast distributed by the Rusty Quill Network that is fantastic. It's available wherever you get your podcasts from. So today we're going to talk about something that's it's pretty well known, it's pretty well developed. But not a lot of details are available to just the average consumer, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. They like to clump everything together when it comes to H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about Lovecraftian horror. That term is pretty much used interchangeably with cosmic horror because Lovecraft is regarded as the founding father of the cosmic horror genre, which is an offshoot of science fiction horror, or it's more of a niche, I guess.
Right. Arguably, they could say it was the first of the first.
So Lovecraft, let's start with just kind of defining cosmic horror and what its hallmarks are, what its keystone traits are. We have Howard Phillips Lovecraft, aka H.P. Lovecraft, is, like I said, he's regarded as the father of cosmic horror. And it was almost believed by some people that he actually had a sixth sense where he drew the inspiration for his work, because a lot of people just couldn't fathom somebody coming up with the types of monsters and eldritch horrors and beings that he came up with without having some kind of sixth sense, being some kind of oracle, or at least being a very disturbed
completely
individual.
Mad.
Absolutely bonkers.
I love it.
So one of his most famous creatures or characters that pretty much everybody is familiar with, because there's imagery that relates to it in a lot of mainstream media. His most popular monster is Cthulhu, which is the humanoid with bat wings and a head that looks like an octopus.
I'm pretty sure he has a dragon tail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was one of the staples.
Yes, I've definitely seen that depicted in fan art, I should say. And he's just this enormous monster that is technically dead, but he's kind of in a coma. I guess, and he lives just like, hundreds of leagues below the ocean in the lost city of Relay. And the thing is, the whole thing with Cthulhu is he is dead but dreaming, is what they say, and he could one day return to basically wreak destruction on the entire planet Earth.
I'm waiting.
But I mean, we're millennials. That would be okay with
Right,
me.
impending doom for us is just everything.
I mean, that's everyday life for us.
You would not be wrong.
If it's not a pandemic, it's a mass shooting or a terrorist attack.
War or something.
A war, yeah.
Honestly, we skipped over aliens and we're just like, whatever. So if we get the Eldritch Terrors, bring it on.
I don't think anybody would be surprised at this point.
No, we probably have tea with them at that point.
Right. So I want to kind of touch on a couple of depictions of Cthulhu in mainstream media. Now, namely, Cthulhu is a creature in the Dungeons and Dragons universe. And this kind of relates to Derek and I were talking about Tiamat, who is an ancient Babylonian goddess, kind of a dual nature, chaos and creation, and most commonly depicted as a giant sea serpent. But she is also featured in Dungeons and Dragons, but Cthulhu has been as well. I guess he's not really a god per se. I guess
he's like the oldest god's pet. Like there's like kids and then there's the pets, Yeah,
that's good because he's like, as far as I understand, he's not depicted as being super intelligent or sentient.
No.
Just kind of more animalistic and more of a primordial.
Power to be reckoned with constantly.
Yeah. So I guess in D&D he's more depicted as like, I guess he could be a big bad or a boss, which is not one that I'd want to fight.
No, it's the tentacles for me.
Well, that's kind of a running thing with a lot of Lovecraft's creatures.
That and eyeballs.
Eyeballs and tentacles.
Or lack thereof eyeballs.
And sliminess. Multiple limbs.
I get where he comes from now, like the stuff that just gets underneath your skin and you didn't know it would. Mm-mm.
That's true. And that's one of the keystones of cosmic horror is evoking that primordial fear of the unknown or the abyss, because a lot of the gods creatures that Lovecraft came up with, they were seen as residing in like either a pocket dimension deep beneath the ocean like Cthulhu,
on the very outer edges of the cosmos.
Yeah, like deep space. But before we went off on that tangent, Cthulhu in mainstream media, we also, one of my favorite examples is Davy Jones from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Like very, very Cthulhu-like with the octopus face.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in theaters for the first time and seeing him get on screen, and it made my skin kind of a little on edge. I wasn't ready for it as a kid, that's for sure.
Right, it does a little bit. And it's like, I'm a huge fan of like the Underworld movies, and I didn't know, like the first like 2 or 3 times I saw Davy Jones, I had no idea that was Bill Nighy.
Really?
Yeah, and then I found out and I was just like, oh, that is his voice. Yes. And it made me super happy. So another major player in the Lovecraft verse is the what's viewed as the most powerful god. His name is Azathoth, and he actually resides outside of our universe because, according to Lovecraft, our entire universe and everything humans view as space-time reality is contained within one of Azathoth's dreams.
Yeah, that's where he says that's when no one can go beyond his reach of view because he can see everything all at once through every bit of the cosmos or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, and he's kind of a passive deity, if you will. Like, he's generally regarded as evil or sinister, but he doesn't really do anything himself, to interfere with humans. So Azathoth is also known as several other titles, being the Blind Idiot God, the Daemon Sultan, Lord of All, Him in the Gulf, the Sleeping Chaos, or Blind Dreamer. and he's the ruler of all the outer gods and all, as I mentioned, everything we humans perceive as reality. And the thing is if the blind dreamer ever awakens, our universe will end and our reality will just entirely collapse and cease to exist. And so, as with all well-developed universes or mythos, some of these gods, namely Azathoth, they have offspring.
Yes.
And one I really want to touch on is another major player is Nyarlathotep, or Nyarlathotep, and it's the name very obviously loosely based on Egyptian pharaohs. And Nyarlathotep is essentially, he's an extension of, I want to say Azathoth's will, but I think it's more like Azathoth's just general nature as a chaotic, battle-lined being. And Nyarlathotep is he does like to interfere with humans and
oh yeah, definitely,
and fuck with their affairs and like make them go crazy and implant nightmares and horrific visions in their mind and just generally manipulate them and just guide them toward their own destruction.
Right.
Like he totally gets off on that.
Oh yeah, a good comparison would definitely be Stephen King's It with Pennywise.
Right. Okay, so you're a little more familiar with that than I am. So what is the driving force behind Pennywise? Like what's his whole thing?
He gets off on fear. I mean, that should be pretty prominent in any movie or any meme you've depicted of Pennywise. However, I have a little snippet right here that says, all right, for starters, Pennywise has a cosmic origin existing outside of known space, a lot like the deities of Lovecraft's creation. Pennywise also has otherworldly powers that he uses to manipulate people to do his bidding, much like the cults that follow particular Lovecraftian gods. What's more, Pennywise can take different physical forms, similar to however you pronounce your little guy.
Nyarlathotep.
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
Yes. So it's basically anything that he can gain something from, a power off of, or I don't know how to further explain that, but pretty much he gets off on a certain fear from a child, from an adult. Like you can see on both spectrums.
It's almost like psychic vampirism.
Yes.
Like he's fed by that energy.
Absolutely. I mean, some humans, I guess you could say, do the same thing, because I know a lot of people that they get their jolly off on fear.
Yeah, or like manipulating others.
Or thinking that they're higher than thou and that kind of shit.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. Which, I mean, in a way is a direct tie to Lovecraft too, because he thought he was just the tits.
Yeah, he was kind of egocentric.
But I mean, to be a cosmic god writer, I guess you kind of have to be.
Right. I mean, I guess maybe you have to have that god complex to think in that kind of way.
Is he an Aries? I'm just asking.
You're an Aries.
I'm just asking. Again, these people don't know me. Calm down.
So something else I want to talk about in that vein, actually, first of all, is before I jump into the Magnus archives, because I'm gonna jump down that rabbit hole.
Oh yes.
I want to talk about Stranger Things, and specifically how the main characters, the kids, the group of kids in Hawkins, Indiana, that they play, the main characters, they play Dungeons and Dragons. And it's kind of funny because all this weird shit starts happening in Hawkins that is either a direct result of, or at least directly related to, all these crazy, weird science experiments that this shady, I want to say it's a government like agency,
yeah,
or maybe just some kind of rogue cell. So anyway, they've got a secret lab in Hawkins. All this weird shit starts happening. One of the main kids, it's Will, gets sucked into an alternate dimension that the kids call the Upside Down. and it's like in a side reality or like a fucked up reflection of our world, or specifically of Hawkins.
Yes. Well, no, technically it's everywhere.
Right. Well, I'm thinking that because the episode I just watched, it was it's the last 2 episodes of the first installment of season 4. So if you haven't seen that, spoiler alert, where Steve and Nancy and
the other two.
Yeah, the other two, Robin and what's the Ozzy Osbourne looking motherfucker they brought in? What's his name?
Eddie. Yes, Eddie.
Yeah, okay. They all end up going into the Upside Down, and I think it's Eddie asks, he's like, oh, so this is like, everything that's in Hawkins is here. And it's like kind of like yes and no, because
isn't it kind of like a time loop at the same time?
I don't think it's necessarily like a time loop. I think it's kind of like more like a time quilt.
Yeah, because it's like, stuck there.
Like a patchwork of like different periods in time, which is kind of cool. So anyway, Stranger Things, the kids, all this weird shit happens. These monsters start appearing, and the kids start relating it to Dungeons and Dragons because it's just how they comprehend this.
How they deal with their trauma.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's also in a way that they can understand. And what's funny is it's actually they have a better grasp and a better understanding of what's going on and how to combat it than all of these adults who pretend to know what the fuck they're doing, which is kind of
such is life.
Yeah. So in relation to what we were just talking about, you have in season 1, okay, so with all the seasons of Stranger Things, you have the big bads. You have the Demogorgon in season 1.
Which was adorable. Which
is what the kids call it. Because it's just kind of this mindless, animalistic, almost like Cthulhu, like you put it, like a pet.
Yes.
Of one of the big bads. And Cthulhu, the Demogorgon, is just kind of like hungry, and he wants to eat everybody, and is generally kind of doesn't have great manners in that aspect. Like he wants to kill the people and eat them.
Right. He's driven by hunger. That's all he knows. That's all his brain knows as a pet.
And as the story progresses, it turns out there's more of these Demogorgon type things.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure the other government is trying to like beef them up somehow.
And like weaponize them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a government agency.
Sounds very Russian.
Sounds like the United States. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, with current events, the USA is trying to like keep its head down at this point, especially after all the mass shootings.
Oh yeah.
I mean, China told on us, for God's sake.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got it. Okay, you have a point. So yeah, the Demogorgon in season 1 of Stranger Things. In season 2, you have what the kids call the Mind Flayer, which they think, and honestly I think, is controlling everything that goes on in the Upside Down, and is trying to extend its influence into our world to take over everything. And the Mind Flayer, that term comes from Dungeons and Dragons. And in Dungeons and Dragons, funnily enough, Mind Flayers actually, they look like Cthulhu. Minus the bat wings and the tail. They are humanoids. They have the octopus face going on. And they're very intelligent. They're very powerful psychic creatures. They have telekinesis, telepathy. They can mind control people.
Yeah, so they don't look as, I guess, threatening as they are.
I don't know, man. Like if I saw something, they're anywhere from like 5 to 7 feet tall versus like the hundreds of feet tall that Cthulhu is said to be.
Yeah.
And kind of a neat little unique trait of theirs is they levitate everywhere they go, like roughly like a foot or so off the floor, which makes them seem even, more intimidating or bigger than they are. Which I don't know, if I saw like a 7 foot tall octopus faced motherfucker in like dark robes levitating toward me like a foot off the ground, I would run. Well,
it depends honestly on who you see first. If you see Cthulhu first, and I see your little minions, oh, bro, I'm at least try. I'm at least try because I know I can't beat you. Like, there's no way. But your little minions, oh, yeah. Take that robe off. Let's see where you're going, buddy.
So you start with the minions, then focus on the big boss.
Exactly. That's why I never got anywhere with Mario Kart or any kind of video game. That's why I suck at all of them.
But so the Mind Flayer is the big bad in season 2 of Stranger Things, and it's thought that he's the one who controls the Upside Down. He's running everything, and then what was season 3?
Oh, it was Billy.
Oh, that's right. All right, so Billy is the older, the cool guy, right?
For less of a better word, I guess.
Yeah, the general 80s douchebag that drives the Camaro with the mullet and listens to hair metal.
Look, he's nice to look at, but that brain.
And so he ends up being mind controlled by the Mind Flayer and just generally spreading terror all through season 3.
Yeah, he fucked them little kids up.
And tries to expand the influence of the Mind Flayer in our world to help it break through from the other side. So season 4 of Stranger Things, the current season, the big bad, they're calling it Vecna, after the Dark Wizard, which is the big bad in the Dungeons and Dragons campaign they were playing this season. And I want to get a little bit more into how this Vecna creature actually has distinct similarities with is very similar to Nyarlathotep from Lovecraft's fiction. We're going to take a short break before we get into that, and then we'll be back here in just a moment with episode 3, or part 2 of episode 2, Cosmically Horrifying. Stick around, Voyagers. Hey there, Voyager. Thank you so much for tuning in today and listening to VFTV for when you just need a pinch of mystery. Stick around and check out episode 3 coming up next. VFTV.